to be the smartest marketer in the room or the best marketer you can be, it's really to know the consumer. So by doing that, what does that mean? Knowing the consumer, that's really applying personalization. We really think about what that means. It's knowing who they are intrinsically and not just, okay, 18 to 24-year-olds or whatever standard demographic, right? But what really, I always say, who's going to buy it and why, right? Who are they? What do they read? What do they watch? What do they care about? Why are they looking? What's their customer journey?
Welcome to the Marketing Report, a podcast created for and by marketing professionals who seek to better understand their consumers and design unique, personalized experiences that stand out in today's market. In each episode, hosts from Verisk Marketing Solutions connect you to industry thought leaders, practitioners, and experts focused on improving B2C experiences through powerful data-driven insights. It's about how we connect with our consumers and where we can partner together to do it better. This is the Marketing Report.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Marketing Report podcast. I'm Tim Finnegan, your humble host, and I run product marketing for Verisk Marketing Solutions, where we focus on data and insights. And one of those things that we've focused on is how we can help companies with personalization. In the last podcast, I had Jared Luskin. We talked a little bit about personalization, which really got me thinking. And that's why I'm excited for my next guest. I'm not going to give you away who it is yet, although you probably saw it when you clicked on it. But before I introduce Lissa, I went out on the magic internet and just was looking around personalization. And I found this great study that McKinsey delivered where they talked about 71% of consumers expect companies to deliver personalization or personalized interactions. And it goes on to say that 76% get frustrated when that doesn't happen. And they had this whole section, how personalization drives performance, creates better customer outcomes. It drives better growth. Like, for example, companies that grow faster drive 40% more of their revenue from personalization than slower growing counterparts. Now, we can all agree or disagree, but it seems correct. But what I really want to do is have a discussion with my guest on why she thinks, one of the things we're going to talk about is personalization, why she thinks why better understanding the consumer will and understanding that personalization will drive results. So without further ado, my next guest is Lissa Cupp. She's an executive, a consultant, an educator, a speaker, a coach. She's worked or consulted on brands like Scott's Miracle-Gro, Angie's List, Facebook. And she also teaches a course at the University of Dayton where she's a faculty instructor, on the faculty team in the School of Business Administration at the Department of Management and Marketing. What a great resume, Lissa, and welcome to the Marketing Report podcast.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. I have done a couple of things, but it makes me sound like I've been around for a minute or two, but I wouldn't trade any of it. So thanks for having me.
And for transparency, full disclosure, I don't know if Lissa was sort of my boss at one time because we taught the same course at University of Dayton, the MBA program, that marketing management strategy, where Lissa would give me my advice on how to teach that class better. So Lissa, thank you for your help and being a great partner.
It has been great collaborating with you, and you've been a guest in my class, which my students loved. So I'm happy to be here. It's been a great collaboration so far, and I look forward to future things we're going to do.
So Lissa, let's get right to it. When I mentioned the power of personalization, I know you've got some real world examples. Maybe sort of start from sort of the classroom view of what personalization is and the importance of it, and then maybe follow up with a couple, real world examples you have.
Sure, absolutely. And thanks for asking. So, I feel like my job as an educator, aside from just really geeking out from marketing, that was my career. I spent a lot of time in it. I love marketing. I love thinking about how brands tick, like what makes them tick. And so when I'm talking to students and they're in my class, I tell them, and I have mostly juniors and seniors or MBA students. So they're very near the point where they're going to step out into their careers. and they want to make an impact. And I tell them that, to be the smartest marketer in the room or the best marketer you can be, it's really to know the consumer. And so by doing that, what does that mean? Knowing the consumer, that's really applying personalization. We really think about what that means. It's knowing who they are intrinsically and not just, okay, 18 to 24-year-olds or whatever standard demographic, right? But what really, I always say, who's going to buy it and why, right? Who are they? What do they read? What do they watch? What do they care about? Why are they looking? What's their customer journey, right? Which is something else McKinsey talks about quite a bit. Why are they doing what they're doing? And how do they come in to interact with your brand? And, and what they're looking for and why can really inform how you approach them. It's not just, hey, we have these products. Do you want to buy them? And some brands do that, and it's rather obvious and not very effective. And the ones who really connect with those customers or end consumers can really make a difference. So back to, in the classroom, one of the things that I think about is, well, I talk about my background with the students, right? And I was around before the interwebs. And so I say that to them and think, oh, here we go. They're going to go, okay, boomer, right? Even though I'm not a boomer. But I talk about, for example, junk mail, right? Starting off in direct mail, which really was a good precursor for the internet because I learned about data tracking and analysis. And I said, for example, junk mail. Everyone hates junk mail, right? They say, oh, they hate it. I said, unless you go to your mailbox and it's a piece of mail from a brand that you like. You get if it's my daughter and they get the Ulta coupon, right? Oh my gosh. Well, let me just set that aside right over here, right? All of a sudden it's not junk mail. Well, why not? Because of personalization. Because a brand that is doing it right, who knows their customer and connects with them at the right time, here's what the customer comes away feeling. Oh, I love that brand. They get me. They really get me. And my husband teases me. He's like, oh, marketers, because of my career, right? Anything you see like good marketing, he's like, marketers. And I said, people love to be marketed to if it's effective, right? We're passionate about our brands that we like. And why is that? Well, because of good marketing. And that's because it's rooted in personalization, understanding who they are and then playing that back to them and meeting their needs, of course, but connecting all those dots for them.
And sometimes it's the little things too, right, Lisa? So here's a little commercial for you. My favorite hot sauce is Slap Your Mama. It is the best hot sauce ever. And they were like a smaller brand. And when I would order it, I'd have a little handwritten note. Hey, Tim, thanks for your order. Appreciate your business. I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, they love me. They know me. And then as they've gotten bigger, no more note. And I'm like, why is that? And I mean, it's a silly personalization thing, and it's like,
Mhm.
that's really hyper personalized. But if you think about big brands, and I love your example of Ulta because some of the brands I like, when those emails come through, I'm like, oh, yep, I am going to not delete that right away. I want to see what
Mhm.
they have to say.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's the same principle of like we talk about in my omni-channel e-commerce class, we talk about, Main Street USA and how people used to buy from the neighborhood general store and they knew everybody that came in. And then we went through a phase where we had big box retail and then we had malls, right? And they didn't really know us. It was mass market. And then we would go in there and they couldn't really attribute a sale exactly to that ad or whatever. Well, now people come in and they're getting more personalized. Data is making that general store feel again. And so if you think about as a customer, why do you go to your favorite restaurant? Why do you go to your favorite bar on date night or whatever? Because they know you, right? And you get that warm, fuzzy feeling when you go someplace, whether you're a regular customer and they greet you, they know your favorite drink, they're very attentive. They say, how are you doing? They know something about you. You love that. So the challenge is as brands get big and they have a lot of consumer touch points, how do they make give that customer that warm, fuzzy feeling when they're dealing with thousands or millions of transactions? But data has made it possible.
Right. And those challenges when you talk about personalization, it's just, not knowing me as a person or my likes and dislikes, all that's a piece of it, but at least knowing enough about me that you market to me in the right way. And I'll give you an example. We spoke at our corporate Verisk. They have an insurance conference, and our whole presentation was about, as an insurance carrier, it's hard to market to 250 million people in the US. But and we showed this cool, like, funnel down how you can get it to more of a marketable number where are the people you're trying to reach, are they married? Do they have kids? How many cars do they have in the driveway? And on and on. And then you end up with 4 million people, this last one of, a married couple that makes over 120,000, that has 3 kids, that has and I was like, "Oh, I get it." And I think I've talked to your students about that, where you drill down. It's like, isn't it easier to market to 4 million than 250 million?
Mhm, mhm. I love that you said that example. Exactly. It'll help you segment the audience a little bit better. It'll help your marketing have a better ROI because every dollar you spend is going to resonate with them better. And the challenge is, and this is why I tell my students that you can be the best marketer you can be, because even good brands don't always do this well. So, for example, it's funny that you mentioned insurance, because insurance is one of those product sets that everybody needs, right? Everybody needs, and maybe we don't like it so much, but we need it. And I met this woman once at a networking event, and she introduces herself and she said, and I said, "Oh, tell me what business you're in, and what do you do?" And she said, "I sell insurance." I said, "Oh, tell me more. Who are your customers?" And she said, "Anybody." She said, "Everybody buys insurance. Therefore, that's what I love about insurance, because anybody could be a customer." So then, unbeknownst to her, I kind of refer to it to my students without her by name. And I say, that is exactly what not to do, right? If you appeal to everybody, then you appeal to nobody, right? You need to tailor it. Talk to me about auto insurance. Maybe I've had 3 accidents and I'm, accident prone perhaps. And so I need insurance that's tough to get. Maybe I have a boat and I need boat insurance. Maybe I just got married or just got some investment money. I just came into some money. I have different needs. So the insurance I need is unique and specific. And if you're more tailored to that, it'll be more relevant to me and you'll get my attention.
So, real quick, did you just come into some money that I need to
No,
know
I did
about?
not.
Okay. The
Woo!
second thing is, what's the woman's name? You can tell it here.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No.
All right. So, Lisa, I know you've got an interesting story around not only understanding the consumer, but sort of the role of empathy and curiosity to identify sort of those unspoken needs. Like what comes to your mind when I talk about empathy and curiosity?
Sure. So, one example that I think about is back to understanding the customer and empathizing with them. Eh, People joke these days about how hard customer service is, that, you can't reach a live person, and no one wants to call and sit on hold, right? All these memes are about this. But really, we need help. If something's going on, we need help. And, I worked for a brand that many people may know, Mead, the school supply people. We all grew up with Mead school supplies, notebooks, planners, etc.
Trapper
And
keeper.
yeah, Trapper Keeper, right? Exactly. And I was like a kid in a candy store working with that brand and that organization. But when I joined there, and I was responsible for creating the direct to consumer group. So my group was not tasked with finding and making sure that our products were purchased in Target or Walmart. Our group was working with consumers one-on-one, right? We were the people who answered the phone when you called in, if you ordered online, if we sent you a catalog and you're sending that back in, right? Everything that was direct to consumer. And my team, at the time we were there, my team kind of felt like the buggy whip company, like, "Oh, I joked that they were Eeyores, that they were going to be, it was going to be obsolescence. No one's going to use paper planners anymore. And people don't need our planning pages, and we're just going to be obsolete." And they were pretty down in the dumps about it. But to your point about empathy, after talking with the team and understanding who are our customers, again, always start there. Who are they? What are they going through? And we came to the conclusion that they needed our help, that things were changing. We all used to carry, I'm showing my age here, but we all used to carry planners. They were like our Bibles. Like, we didn't go anywhere without them. I once, when I lived in Chicago years ago, forgot it. And I lived in the city and commuted to the suburbs. It was an hour and I forgot it, didn't realize, left it at home. And I turned around, drove home and got it. I mean, you just didn't function without it, right? And so we had those days where everybody had that. And then now it wasn't cool anymore to carry a dated planner, right? But then what do you do? So if you think about how a call center normally operates, or like people on TikTok will say, I work for such and such a brand and I have to be in my seat and I have to ask to be able to go to the bathroom and I have to be this many times, on the phone. Well, we had a call center and we changed our approach using your point about empathy. We said, if people are calling us, the brand, right, not the retailer, they're calling us and they say, "Oh, I want planner pages and I need a planner and I need this and that." Let's have a conversation with them and understand, what is your system? What are you using? Talk to us about, what do you do to take your notes? Where do you put your appointments? What happens if your spouse calls on the way home and says, on the way home, stop and get me 3 things from the store? What do you do? Where do you put it? Right. And realize that they needed some help and that we could help them, because while most people just bought refill pages from us, we actually had 2,400 SKUs. We had a lot of products, including like journals, right? We can help you with a journal, which was a trend that was changing. We said, we have these based on how your system works, however your personal productivity is and what your needs are. We have a solution for you. And so we changed it. So we said, for those certain call types, if you're having a really good, rich conversation with one of our customers, then we're not going to, quote unquote, ding you for like, get off the phone as fast as you can. And it ended up leading to a growth in sales. So that year, our plan for the group was, we were a declining business, right? We had paper products and we were a bit in decline. So we would have hit our goal and gotten our bonuses if we held our decline of these products to 10%. By employing these strategies, these personalized, empathetic conversations, and also doing that on the website and all of our touch points with them, we grew by 5%. So we had a 15% swing to plan. And so my team of Eeyores, that I lovingly called them and teased them about it, were getting high fives in the hallway from our division directors and our president. So very, very proud of the work that we did there. And it was all because of personalization and empathy with our customers.
Some of those customers must have been blown away. Like, you want to know my opinion? Like you're
Right.
you're keeping me on the phone. And then I love how, like, when you had mentioned a little before with your omni-channel class, it's like, we're not only going to talk to you like this, but on our website, we're going to ask you your opinion. We're going to
Yeah.
ask you your opinion all the time. And like these mini surveys and like being hyper focused can really lead to some breakthrough success, no matter where you are in the buying cycle. So I think that's a great story.
Oh, great. Well, if we have time, I have one other that
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
to
yeah,
mind.
yeah.
At Angie's List.
Lisa, to be fair, I did tell you only had 17 minutes, but I did say if you were doing good, I would let you go longer. So yes, I will
At
give
any
you.
moment, I'm expecting to get the hook.
No, yeah,
Well,
I would love to hear about Angie's List.
okay. So I have one other that comes to mind. So Angie's List, and it's funny, I will ask my students when I tell them about my background and the brands that I've worked for, they're not homeowners, and I will ask if they've ever heard of Angie's List. And inevitably, almost all of the hands go up. It's amazing to me the brand awareness that brand has. It was one of the highest in my career. And so when I was there, though, we spent a lot of money on awareness or top of funnel, right? Who's Angie's List, right? And we had, you'd see commercials nonstop of Angie saying, join the Angie's List for free, join Angie's List. And one of the things I learned when I got in there and I was responsible for bringing a growing e-commerce. So you used to go to Angie's List, and you still do, but you go to Angie's List to find a plumber, let's say, for example, find somebody to help you get something done around the house. So find a plumber or an electrician. And we were very focused on come to Angie's List and then look up the information. Oh, you found Joe's Plumbing? Okay, thank you. Have a nice day. Right. And we were doing that really, really well. But meanwhile, we did, again, a data exercise and said, okay, at this point in time, how many people, like in the last 2 weeks, have contacted us? And we used a few different examples. One was plumbing. How many people contacted us, whether came to our website or were looking for a plumber? And what happened with that? Did they get resolution? Did we help them? remember, we're trying to focus on e-commerce. So did we sell them something, right? Do we help them get their job done? And if you know anything about plumbing, if you woke up this morning and you had cold water, you're going to get that resolved probably today, maybe tomorrow, right? Not a week from now, right? So timing is really critical. So we had all these people who had showed intent in our website. They had called and we were whiteboarding. What are all the indicators that they are what I call in the hunt, right? They are in the customer journey looking for plumbing services. And we identified them. They came to our website. They called our call center. They read an article about plumbing that we had published, a number of things. Then we forced ranked them. What are the ones that are show highest intent? Like get me somebody now, right? You're not going to call again the call center unless you have a real need like today. And we found out that we had a lot of unanswered questions. So we were very focused on top of funnel, but we weren't really set up to play catch and say, if you need something today, we can help you with that. Or even close the loop and say, hey, how'd it go, Tim? Did you find that plumber? If not, I've got another one for you. And here's an article, or if you're going to do it yourself, we've got information for you. We did some of it, but we needed to do better. And we used personalization to do so. So personalization can indicate, you can set flags, right? When somebody reads an article, consumes some content in your social media page, calls your call center, asks about this or that, what can be automated so that they get their information that they need? And also, can we set up some flags to monitor that and say, okay, we've got some people who have contacted, let's see what resolution happened. And that turned out to be very successful as well.
Lisa, great story. And the reason why I love it is that I kept on thinking through on how thoughtful and strategic you and your team were in tackling this challenge. And I think when you think of marketing, personalization is tough. It's not just slapping someone's first name in an email and
Mhm.
thinking that's personalization. It's like, how do I better know them? Am I personalizing this message or writing this message specifically for this person or this type of person that will speak to them? Because sample size of one will get frustrated if something comes through and it's like, come on, you guys, you didn't really work that hard at this strategy. So it's with all these things you're talking about, what are some other things, if you could talk about the importance of maybe like narrowing that success or, leading to that breakthrough. Have you seen that in personalization in the classroom or, further on, like other stuff you've done with Facebook or your consulting work?
I mean, sure. My consulting, I've done a lot of work with Meta when they created before it was Meta, when it was Facebook, and then later Meta during the Facebook journalism project. So working with news organizations around the globe, which by the way, have the same challenges and issues that our news organizations in our metro cities have here in the US, which is people don't generally don't get the paper anymore like they used to. Just deliver me the paper and curate the news and tell me what's on page 3 and page 4. And then I have a subscription and I pay for that. And now it's, I get my news here and I'm going to choose what I read when. I don't need you to tell me what's on page 3, then page 4. And by the way, a subscription, I don't know if I need that because news is free now, right? And so there are a lot of challenges, which is we now more than ever, we need good quality information. And that starts in our local communities, people who are going to the school board meetings or listening, to the long meetings, but pulling out the highlights from us. Hey, did you know that they discussed this and they made that decision? That's going to affect the homeowners in that tax district. And we need people who not only do that, but also then write those articles. And then we need to be able to see them. So it's important that these news organizations continue to do well. And so that's the consulting I did. And I really enjoyed it. I think it all comes down to personalization. You mentioned something that it's challenging, right? And it can be complex. The systems, the data, sure. But the thing is, I think of it in very, very simple terms. And that's why I say, start with the customer and who's going to buy it and why. Who's the customer? Why am I reading? What am I trying to understand? Why am I shopping? If you paint that path of that customer journey, and these to me are fun days, right? Throw yourself in a room with a whiteboard and the team and just go, what are they thinking about? Write it out. Well, then what? And by the way, it's not necessarily linear. What information do I need when to go from point A to where I might have a need all the way to purchase and even where I'm telling a friend about it so they can get that done? What are the things that I'm going through, and identify those touch points, and then go set up, change some copy on your website or create a form here, right? I'm not saying it's the easiest thing, but it's also not the hardest thing either. You can break it down into manageable bites.
And, you're speaking to the choir. Like I'm the king of trying to keep things simple. And you're right. Like I am in the class that we teach, I, I always tell them, like, it's easier to market or sell something if you know who you're trying to sell to, rather than, the product is the product, but let's
Mhm.
talk about who is going to buy it, to your point. And one of the things, I don't know if you see this in your class, whenever I have a group do a project, and they have to focus on and build a persona of not just it's really like, give me three personas, your main one. And there's always a couple other ones that are just as important, but a different sort of demographic or whatever. And every time that, like, the main persona is a millennial, I'm like, you guys, I know that's your age group. Not every, I know you might think the world revolves around you, but there's other
Mhm.
people that have money that can spend. Yeah. So
Well, you know what? I'm so glad you mentioned that because, again, back sort of a broken record with me about, training the future marketers, right? So we have a responsibility as educators to make sure that they are prepared to go and help various brands. You don't know what kind of company they're going to go into. And knowing that a good marketer can market to any audience. It doesn't have to be a product that you like. And I tell them, for example, and they don't even know this brand anymore, but I tell them about Reader's Digest. Not because I used to read it. And if your listeners may or may not have heard of Reader's Digest, but it was a long-standing magazine. It was wildly popular for a lot of years. But I knew it in my day, I knew it as something my grandma read. And it was a smaller format. And you'd read, they had like some cartoons and some fun little articles. But so that was an early client of mine years and years ago. And we used to kind of joke that our demographic was 65 to dead. And that was then. That was the demographic for that. And I was young then. It was earlier in my career, but I was working on that account. And the point is, you don't have to be the purchaser of the product to be a good marketer. And I equate it to being an engineer. If you're in engineering school, you learn the laws of physics, you learn if you're an electrical engineer, you're learning about circuits and whatever. You're learning the tools and you're learning how to think about it and how to build things. Now, I'm not an engineer. I couldn't build anything to save my life. I can't even hang Christmas lights and have them stay on. I don't know what's going on there. But putting the tools and the pieces and parts together is something that can be built. And again, they have their frameworks that they use in engineering school, and ours are who is the customer and what products do they need when, and how do we set that up for them so that the customer gets what they need and has a great customer journey. So it's a good principle for our students to learn. You don't have to be the end customer. Just apply the best practices and you'll create a strategy for them.
Lissa, did you bring up engineering because you knew I was an engineer major at the University of Dayton, and the first day of classes, they had me take a placement exam, and they're like, Tim, we don't think engineering's for you. What? I feel like you pulled my records or something.
Uh-oh.
Lissa, you have been tremendous. Your expertise is awesome. I expect the Marketing Report podcast downloads and listeners to go up because you're going to require all your students to listen to this episode.
Well, for sure.
But thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me. This was fun. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Bye, Lissa.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Marketing Report. This show is brought to you by Verisk Marketing Solutions, an organization created to help CMOs and their partners improve the reach, timing, relevance, and compliance of every consumer engagement. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the Marketing Report wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the show notes for more information.